Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharyo Ashtoru Shishyamat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharyo Ashtoru Shishyamat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Nama Acharya Silaridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Jamana Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Sama Beta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, Text number 12. Vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakara chaitanatmana drishta susampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayante mai bada sohirda vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriya karaka chaitanatmana Dishtasu sampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayante mai bada soridha vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakaraka chaitanatmana drishtasu sampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayanti mai bada sohirda vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakaraka chaitanatmana drishtasu sampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayanti mai bada sohrida vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakaraka chaitanatmana drishtastu sampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayante mai vada soridha. Devotees. Vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakaraka chaitanatmana drishtasu sampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayante mai bada soridha vinasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyakaraka chaitanatmana drishtasu sampatsu vipatsa surayo na vikrayante maya bada soridha. We'll do the word for word. Vinasya, different. Lingasya, of the body. Guna, of the three modes of material nature. Pravaha, the constant change. Dravya, physical elements. Kriya, activities of the senses. Karaka, demigods. Chaitana, and the mind. Atmana, consisting of. Dristasu, when experienced. Sampatsu, happiness. Vipatsu, distress. Surayo, those who are advanced in knowledge. Na, never. Vikrayante, becoming disturbed. Mai, unto me. Badasaurida, bound in friendship. Translation. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, my dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The five elements, the senses, the demigod who controls the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from the combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The question may be raised that if the living entity has to act as the superintendent of the activities of the bodily combination, then how can he be indifferent to the activities of the body? The answer is given here. These activities are completely different from the activities of the spirit soul of the living entity. A crude example can be given in this connection. A businessman riding in a motor car sits in the car, supervises its running, and advises the driver. He knows how much gasoline is used up, and he knows everything about the car, but still is apart from the car and is more concerned with his business. Even while riding in the car, he thinks of his business and his office. He has no connection with the car, although he is sitting there. As the businessman is always absorbed in thought of his business, so the living entity can be absorbed in thoughts of rendering loving service to the Lord. Then it will be possible to remain separate from the activities of the material body. This position of neutrality can be possible only for a devotee. The word Bada Sohirda, bound in friendship, is particularly used here. Karmis, Jnanis and Yogis cannot be bound in devotional service. Karmis fully engage in activities of the body. Their aim of life is to give comfort to the body only. Jnanis try to get out of the entanglement by philosophical speculation, but having no standing in the liberated position. Because they do not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down from the exalted position of Brahman realization. Yogis also have a bodily concept of life. They think they can achieve something spiritual by exercising the body through dharana, asana, pranayam, etc. A devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees. The translation again. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, "My dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress." So we have an extensive purport they are given by Prabhupada. There's so many points to note. We've been discussing this section on Prithu Maharaj for a while now, and much has been said about King Prithu's qualities, and even before him assuming office, there was glorification of his qualities by the sages. So he was an exalted person already, but still Lord Vishnu had appeared in the sacrificial arena with Indra with the request to forgive him for his offense of stealing the horse when the horse sacrifice was being performed by King Prithu. And here we find that Lord Vishnu is preaching to Prithu Maharaj mainly of giving up the bodily concept of life. But we can understand that Prithu Maharaj is also an exalted personality, a Shakshravesha avatar, but still, Lord Vishnu is preaching to him about the different elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, those five great elements, the Mahabhuta, the false ego, intelligence, unmanifested stage of the modes of material nature. Then about the senses for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Then the five working senses, voice, legs, hands, anus, and the genital. So, and also the mind. Then there are five objects of the senses: smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. And this comprises of 24 elements. And if one makes an analytical study of these 24 elements, then he can well understand the field of activity. Also mentioned there the demigods. The demigods are also managers in the universe, and they're responsible for they are delegated with different duties, and they carry out their duties in accordance with following Krishna's orders. They are given these different responsibilities. So therefore it is important, they also control the senses, as is mentioned. That is one of their duties. And when a duty is allocated to any devotee or any manager, that is also service to Krishna, especially the demigods are rendering service to Krishna. And therefore, even in our society, sometimes we are given certain services, and if we are delegated to do particular services, then we have to carry out that responsibility very attentively and very accurately. It should be done. Because that has been delegated to you to do. Just like I was reading just earlier on, which was mentioned yesterday, any book of knowledge must lead to Lord Narayan. Otherwise it must be rejected. And this is the way of advancement of knowledge. Because the supreme worshipable deity is Narayan. And the demigods are recommended like secondarily for worship in relation to Narayan. But these demigods are just assisting hands in the management of the universal affairs. So Prabhupada writes in the purport there that in the Bhagavatam, as the officers of a kingdom are respected due to their relation of the king to the king, the demigods are worshipped due to their relation to the Lord. Without the Lord's relation, worship of the demigods is unauthorized. Avidi purvakam. Just as it is improper to water the leaves and branches of a tree without watering its roots. Therefore, the demigods are also dependent on Narayan. So, this is important because sometimes we may, when we read these purports, we have to look deeply into them, because sometimes it's recommending demigod worship. But Prabhupada, in one of his purports in the Gita, he says if the person doesn't know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he can worship the devatas. It's best to use the term devatas, because when we go to Hindu gatherings and we use demigods, it's like kind of minimize the positions of the devatas. So the demigods or the devatas, they also are dependent on Narayan. Then when we see, King Prithu, he had his duties and he was just doing his duty. As we read in the Gita, Krishna says that he himself even follow prescribed duties. Otherwise, the common man would not follow. So the king's prescribed duty is to rule. And it is important to do our duties as explained in the Gita in the 3rd chapter, text 35. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. So we find that King Prithu was just, earlier on in the earlier chapters, where he wanted to kill Mother Earth, who assumed the form of a cow, because she was hiding all the grains and accepting the sacrifice. Sisi Radharanath ki. Accepting the sacrifice but still hiding the seeds and grains, and the people were starving and suffering. So he was just performing his prescribed duties. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that one should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than those prescribed for others. Therefore, it's important that when somebody is given a service, even in our own institution, then he just follows that particular service, although he may be more competent in other services. You'll say, oh no, he loves book distribution, let him go and do books. No, it's not like that. It is important to perform your own duties with the awareness of Krishna or God, rather than trying to fulfill the duties assigned to someone else. So that is important. Also, I'll just paraphrase it, that materially prescribed duties are duties enjoined according to one's psychophysical condition, under the spell of the modes of material nature. So it's dependent on one's psychological and physical makeup, and it's also influenced by the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But then there's also spiritual duties as ordered by the spiritual master, and that is transcendental to Krishna, transcendental service to Krishna. So we can understand that the spiritual duties come from the guidance of the spiritual teacher and are focused on serving Krishna beyond material concerns. Sometimes people often ask, how will we know what is our, swadharma or our spiritual duty? What should we do? So whatever you're given to do by the spiritual master, you can take it as authorized service, and you execute that service. And Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that one should stick to one's duties even up to death. Even right up to that stage, you should stick to your duties, rather than imitate another's prescribed duties. So it's quite important for us to execute whatever is allocated to us, but also we must be ready to do the needful when the time arises, like I'm doing today. I have to speak. So we have to do it, because the person is not here, and we have to do that service. And then yes, but whether one's duties is material or spiritual, it's crucial to adhere to your own responsibilities. Then there's another nice point. Duties on the spiritual platform and duties on the material platform may be different, but the principle of following the authorized direction is always good for the performer. It's good for the performer. And I'll just paraphrase the balance of what is being said. In the material state, it is important to adhere to rules suited to your specific nature and situation rather than imitating others. For example, a Brahmana is in the mode of goodness and is non-violent, but whereas a Kshatriya who is in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent. So there's different roles, different roles have different characteristics. Violence, non-violence, and that is their duty. So we see Prithu Maharaj, earlier on, even in the Bhagavatam, attacking Mother Earth, but that was his duty. Because he also had to teach the citizens, because even during that time, there must be people who are following the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. So he was just executing his duty and setting the example. And the last point in that purport of the Bhagavad Gita, talking about prescribed duties. However, when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. And this is very important for us to note. So, it's not so easy to transcend the modes of material nature. You have ignorance, passion, goodness. And to acquire knowledge, one must be in the mode of goodness to acquire knowledge. But there are obstacles also to be in the mode of goodness. Because when you become very knowledgeable, one can become very proud, so that becomes an obstacle. The other obstacle is when one is in the mode of goodness, then he becomes very happy. And then becoming very happy, then he becomes content to be on that level. So he cannot transcend the modes of material nature. So it's important to transcend the modes of material nature and come to the level, to the spiritual platform of pure goodness. So we are meant to rise from these material modes. And we find that even Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later he acted as a Brahmana. And Parsuram, who was a Brahmana, later acted as a Kshatriya. So it's like interchangeable. So we have to surpass the modes of material nature and come to that spiritual platform. Then we can move ahead. And this is what Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj. In a later verse, we find that Prithu Maharaj was praying for the benediction for at least 1 million years, so that he could hear the glories of the lotus feet from the mouths of pure devotees. And but the horse sacrifice is dealing with the lower levels of the Vedas. The Karmakanda section of the Vedas, and then you see Prithu Maharaj is praying for millions of years to able to hear the glories of the Lord. So he knew that what's the main thing to do to go back to Godhead, or the main process to go back to Godhead was hearing. And hearing is such an important quality. It's not easy to hear philosophy. As soon as we talk philosophy, people are just waiting when we're going to finish this lecture, like that. But hearing is difficult, because we're in the bodily concept of life, and this is exactly what the verse is about. And Maharaj Prithu is praying for that. And we find that even Rupa Goswami also desired, millions of years and tongues to glorify the Lord. So there again, one has to become an advanced devotee. And that advancement comes with time, firstly realizing you're not the body. Especially this type of topic, when we speak about you're not the body, it may not be so palatable for many people to hear, right? But these are the words of Krishna, it's coming from the Bhagavad Gita. So it must be palatable. It must be sweet to hear all the time. You're not the body, but your spirit soul. And in a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that verse is actually from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it's quoted in I think it's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Was quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I forget. Okay. So who is an advanced devotee? When the seed of ecstatic emotion for Krishna fructifies, and then the following 9 symptoms manifest in one's behavior. And what is that? forgiveness, concern that time should not be wasted, detachment, false prestige, absence of false prestige, hope, eagerness, a taste for chanting the names of the Lord, an affection for those places where the Lord resides, in the temple or a holy place like Vrindavan. These are all subordinate signs of ecstatic emotion. So if somebody is detached, somebody likes to hear the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, then he is considered to be an advanced devotee. At least, the process has started and he is making advancement. Just like, we should always question ourselves. Am I engaged in Maya's service or Krishna's service when I'm doing something? Am I engaged in Krishna's service or Maya's service? And this is a sign of an advanced devotee, according to Prabhupada. So even if we just practicing, but we should always check ourselves. Am I engaged in Maya's service or Krishna's service? And Prabhupada quotes Nam Gana Sada Ruchi. Such a devotee is never tired of chanting, singing or dancing. Always. He's ready to sing, chant, dance the Hare Krishna mantra, chanting regularly. And then you develop taste. And also, this is so important, of course we should not imitate him, meaning like the advanced devotees like Prithu Maharaj, Rupa Goswami, who are desiring this millions of years and tongues. But we must at least be very careful to complete our 16 rounds, the minimum amount of prescribed chanting. Nam Gana Sada Ruchi. We have to increase our taste for singing and chanting Hare Krishna. Just like Haridas Thakur, when he was asked by Lord Chaitanya, when he was told by Lord Chaitanya to, like he was old and he couldn't finish his chanting. He said, his response was, that was the only disease that I have, that I cannot complete my chanting. So we take vows, of chanting a fixed number of rounds. We have to do it. Then there's so many, different themes that I was looking at, but just thought that the nature of material existence. Both material nature and the living entity are eternal. And I was wondering how, but then Prabhupada qualified. He said they existed before the creation of the cosmos. So material manifestation arises from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and the living entities are considered to be superior energy compared to material nature. So we know that how creation takes place, and how the living entities also exist in the Supreme Lord, but due to their conditioned state they become averse to the Lord, or averse to serving Him. Yes. So in the material world, we are dependent on the mercy of someone else. It's an utmost sign of misfortune if we're dependent on the mercy of just gross materialists. But in the case of devotees, they are dependent on the transcendental relationship with the Lord. And therefore we are considered to be fortunate because we connected to the Lord and we become dependent on Him. And sometimes, we have this disease of becoming independent of everything. And independence is not good, in the sense that if we're not dependent on Krishna and we think we can do everything on our own, by our own endeavors, that may not be so good for a devotee. Because at all times, we are also under the stringent laws of material nature. There's an interesting point that I was going to make. That was, I think, yesterday, Anadishesh was making the point that, the Vishnu in this age, we'll come back to it. But just like the Devatas, they're responsible for so many, they attend to so many managerial affairs within the creation, and they do their duties diligently. But sometimes there is no Indra, or so there isn't a pious soul to take up the post of Indra or Brahma. Then Lord Krishna himself assumed that role. And just like the GBC, at one time I think Tamal Krishna Maharaj left India, and then Prabhupada accepted the role as a GBC. So accepting that responsibility is important. And then when I always think of our society, I think how we're progressing so much, but yet we get so much criticism, but we are progressing tremendously. Every day somebody is joining somewhere, somebody is reading the books throughout the entire planet. And it must be because of the organization, or Prabhupada followed the order of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to have the governing body commissioner. We may not agree at all times with what decisions are taken, but we, in ISKCON, we follow the rules. We follow the rules. So that what is so important. So even in the universe, there's demigods, they're controlling the senses, they have responsibilities. And we are very fortunate that we have the governing body commissioner. So I was thinking about, just before I sat here, that envy is a deeply rooted quality that we all possess to some degree, minute degree, unless we are very pure in heart and pure devotees. And that's also, definition of a pure devotee is broad also. But envy, even Prabhupada, people were envious of Prabhupada also. And I recall reading in this, which I always like this purport from the Nectar of Instruction, Text 6. He says, those who think that Krishna consciousness is limited to a certain section of people, certain section of devotees, or a certain tract of land, are generally prone to see the external features of the devotee. Because this is like the bodily concept of life. Such neophytes, unable to appreciate the exalted service of the advanced devotee, try to bring the Mahabhagavat to their platform. We experience such difficulty in propagating this Krishna consciousness all over the world. Unfortunately, we are surrounded by neophyte God brothers who do not appreciate the extraordinary activities of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. They simply try to bring us to their platform, and they try to criticize us in every respect. We very much regret their naive activities and poor fund of knowledge. An empowered person who is actually engaged in the confidential service of the Lord should not be treated as an ordinary human being. For it is stated that unless one is empowered by Krishna, one cannot spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. So envy, for even towards advanced devotees, people are envious of their advancement. And we see Prabhupada indirectly was talking about his position. Because he was empowered, he was a Shaktivesh avatar, he was empowered to spread Krishna consciousness. Prithu Maharaj was also the same. He was empowered to rule. So much can be said, about Prithu Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Another point in the purport was talking about friendship. Just like we have friends. And the best friend is Krishna. The best friend you can have is Krishna. Because he will never let you down. Like sometimes we are advising our friends because of envy. We may advise them to a point where they don't surpass us. And that happens sometimes, even because we are envious. We don't want somebody to be better than us. So same how Indra, he didn't want Prithu Maharaj to be better than him by doing 100 horse sacrifices. And as one becomes purer, then he can become a good friend of other souls, and he can guide them properly without envy. Envy, according to Prabhupada's understanding, is when you don't like somebody. That's envy. And sometimes you find that even people just you don't know the person, you just don't like that person. When you look at him, how he's dressed, or maybe you just don't like him. So that's envy. So we should become free from this. Any tips how to become free from envy? How to become? To serve. Yes, to serve. Yeah, even in service we may not want to give everything to it, because one kachori is there and man, just one kachori is there now, thinking should I give him half? Or there's one devotee, when he first came to the movement, somebody served him half a kachori and he was very upset. He went home and he learned how to make kachoris. Yeah, he just mastered it. Yeah. Because he was, like you serve very freely. Or you serve how much the person wants, but kachori at least he'll want one. At least he'll want one. So yes, so like by service, we can become free. And also by glorifying others for their abilities. If somebody, like has some talent that is given by Krishna and they're using it in Krishna's service, you glorify them. Even materialists, because all the talent is coming from Krishna. So we glorify them for their talent. But they're misusing it to a certain extent. But by glorifying them for their talents, we become free from envy by giving credit where it's due. Like that we become free. There's so much when I say. We've got 7 minutes. And the other thing is that the Lord is traveling with you throughout your lifetime within this body. Throughout your lifetime. And He's your best friend. Because He's there, He's going all places with you. He's in your heart, He's going everywhere. So you can turn to the Lord and you can get, as you become purer, you get direction from within. From without, also Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual master, the scriptures. But when you get pure, we become more purer, then we get some direction. like the materialists would say, intuition, which means nothing actually. Intuition means Krishna, the super soul. That's what it really means within the body of any living entity. And the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Purusha Prakriti Shtoi, Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan, Karana Guna Sangasya, Sadasa Joni Janmasu. So the living entity, the material nature, thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So for a long time we've been in the material world, and that enjoying spirit is a lot. It's a lot. We want to enjoy. But slowly we have to give up that enjoyment by surrendering more to Krishna. And the more we surrender to Krishna, the more we can make advancement, become very happy, and then we can transcend the modes of material nature, and then we can become, when we go back to the spiritual world, we can have friendship with Krishna there. And there are different types of friends of Krishna. It's very nicely discussed in the Nectar of Devotion. You can read more about it in that particular book. And how you can have deep relationship with Krishna in friendship. Like Subal, very deep relationship with Krishna. And even the other sakas or the other cowherd boys and friends, how they relate with Krishna when he kills the demon, and then his hair is all in disarray, and they set it up, and a person, one cowherd boy will take a fan of the lotus leaf and fan him. Different people are doing different things, all for the pleasure of Krishna. And when you read this, it's so interesting that how deep relationship you can have, an intimate relationship with Krishna. So in the end of that purport, we'll stop here after the end of the purport, it says that a devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees. That's the conclusion of the purport. So it's 8:27. We have 3 minutes. We'll stop here. We'll take some any questions or comments. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Hare Krishna.